Hey guys, in this video we'll be looking at SolidWorks and in particular creating a assembly using SolidWorks. We have some pre-made parts which we can see just down on this top region here, and we'll be taking those components and creating an overall assembly for a universal joint. So our first step here is to create a new assembly. To do that, we just go into New. We can do this by going to File and New or Control N, and we'll go to Assembly. If we go to the Advanced tab, we'll be able to see other options for different templates that we can use. This one here, I'll just use the SM template. It doesn't matter too much, but we'll just go to OK. So this might take a little while to load. All right. So what we have in front of us here is our assembly environment. This is similar to what we would have had for the part environment. It has its own origin, X, Y, and Z axes, and the first thing we need to do is insert a part. So there are several ways we can do this. One way is we can click on Insert Components. This is default to be open when we start a assembly. Click on Browse, and then look for the file that we want. So this one we want this time is going to be the bracket, and then we'll click on Open. Now we can click anywhere in the space to place it, or what we could do is click on the green tick and it will locate the part at the origin of the assembly. So the assembly has a front, a top, and a right plane, and also the part has a front, a top, and a right plane, and we've aligned them together now. A good idea here is we can click on float. This is to make it move again and then actually align the front and the top planes together. So there are several ways to mate components together. We can click on the mate tool and click on the plus icon here and connect the front and the front plane together. Click on the green tick, connect the top and the top plane together, and the right plane of the assembly and the right plane of the part together, and then click on the green tick. Okay, so when we create a mate, it adds to the list that we have on the left-hand side, and so here we have 3 coincident mates which have been added to our component. Okay, so we're going to add another part, another component. So one way we can do that is we'll click on Insert Components just on the top here. And we can go to Browse. And we'll put in the component called Yoke Mail. So we can click on Yoke and click on Open. So we'll see the part appearing here, and if I just click in the free space just to the left here, we'll be able to place the part. Okay, so we've got information showing up here for the file name. That minus sign at the beginning shows the state. So it's currently free to move wherever we wish to be able to move it. I want you to notice that for the bracket, there is no plus or minus sign showing there and no F. So that means that the component is completely defined, and you'll see a warning message showing up. This here shows the file name, and the number to the right tells us the instance number. So if we put more than one copy of that file, this will change to 2 to 3 to 4 and so on for each part that we place in. The next is the configuration. So that's the configuration, and the default to the right of that refers to the display state. All right, so when we've looked at configurations in the previous video, that's being shown here. Okay, so the first step here is to add a mate between this surface and that surface there called a concentric mate. So we click on the mate icon. So go to Assembly and Mate. And we need to click on the two surfaces that we would like to align with each other. So this will be the cylindrical face of the yoke, the male yoke, and then the cylindrical face of your bracket. So here we'll click. You'll notice that the component moves to a location that's close to that location and defaults to giving us a concentric or two circles, one circle inside the other circle relationship. Okay, so just click on the green tick, and here we have the component. Let's try that again. So this circle and this circle, click on the green tick, and now that's added a mate, a concentric mate. Okay, looks like I put one too many times that mate. We can click on the green tick, and now we see the mate has a concentric relationship. Okay, so the next relationship we need here is between this surface on the top, and if we rotate the part, we also need a relationship with the topmost shape there. So we can use the move component command, or rotate component command if we want to look at a new view now. Alright, so the surfaces we can mate, and the default is to create a coincident relationship, and then just click on the green tick. And Control 7 if you want to see the view. Now, if we try to rotate the part, we see it's free to rotate, and not free to move up and down at this stage. Okay, so the next thing that we can look at now is trying to add some more additional components into that section. So another way we can add a component is if we have that file, so we have a component up here called yoke female. Well, actually we want the spider one. So we can click on that file and drag it. We need to be outside of the mate operation. And here we have our new component showing up here. Now, if we right click on the part and click on this option called Move with Triad, we can move the component left and right, up and down, rotate it, and so on. So if you have difficulty with trying to orient the part, this tool might be useful for you. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is connect the center of this section. So go mate. We want this cylindrical face mated with this cylindrical face here. Alright, so we can click on the green tick here, and this will add the mate to our list here. So it's not confirmed yet until we click on the green tick. The next mate we can add is a advanced mate. So we just click here, and the advanced mate we'll use as a width mate. For a width mate, there are two sets of selections we need to make, the width selection and the tab selection. So we use this quite often when we're trying to combine views together, and we want to see one component in the middle of two other faces. So in this case, the width selection will be the outer surface of the male yoke, and the tab selection will be the right hand side and the left hand side of our spider. Alright, so there's our selection. We can see that it's moved it to a position where the width is centered. We can change these options here if we want, but we've got that as centered. We'll click on the green tick, and that will confirm both of those relationships which we created before. Okay, So the next thing we're going to look at here is there's another feature to add here. So this is the yoke female component. All right, so for the yoke female, we've got the yoke female component over here. What we could do is we could open the part. So the yoke female component is open. And if we tab this to the right and tab this component to the left, we can take the component dragging from here and dragging that component towards the left. And that is another way to drag our components in. So if you've already got the file open, we can put it into our assembly. All right, so the next relationships will be between this cylindrical face. So we'll use the mating tool. And it will be this face mated with this cylindrical face. Click on the green tick. And we'll use that same width feature again as well. So here we have advanced mates, width, and the width selection would be this surface and this surface of the female yoke. And for the tab selections, this surface and this surface. Click on the green tick and click on OK. In case you're wondering, the way that I'm able to change and move the part so easily is I'm using the middle button of my mouse to be able to move the component. All right, so the next step is we're going to make this face here and this face here mated together, so click. A coincident relationship would not work because we'll see that there's a small gap which shows up here if we look at this on its side. So because of that small gap, we're not going to be able to do that. It defaults to a parallel relationship, and then we'll just click on the green tick in both windows. All right, now if I take the section at the top, we'll see how this component moves. And so you can see how a universal joint rotates. It's quite interesting. All right. Next thing that we're going to look at here is a few more relationships to add in. So there's some pins to add in, a long pin and a short pin. They all come from one configuration file, so one file with different configurations. So we'll do that in the next video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.